Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Mi nombre es Alba Mar, me pueden decir Alba. El canal se llama Seriela, estamos aquí para hablar de libros, algunos de ellos en español desde Puerto Rico. Hello, my name is Alba Mar, you may call me Alba. The channel name is Seriela. We're here to talk about books, and some of them in Spanish from Puerto Rico, or not Puerto Rico. We'll see. This is going to be a Vloggity update because I will be including little clips of what I've been doing and where I've been going, especially with the grandsons these past few weeks, which have been very busy. The first thing that I finished was Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson, which I read for the Booktube Common Read convened by Olive at abookolive, which was a brilliant opportunity to turn some drama into solidarity. Since Olive so concisely and eloquently explains the reasons behind this common read, this particular one, I'll link her video announcement down below if you're interested. It was just, the common read was the kick in the pants that I needed to finally pick up this book, which has been on my shelves forever, and which I have even mentioned on this channel before, that I wanted to read earlier this year. In this book, we follow Brian Stevenson, a lawyer, as he works in favor of condemned prisoners and opens, directs, and fundraises for the Equal Justice Initiative out of Montgomery, Alabama, an organization that defends prisoners on death row and children who have been sentenced to life. And we follow him also as he argues 5 times before the Supreme Court of the United States and champions the causes of people that I just mentioned. This was the perfect book to continue my carceral canon about books that focus on the writings of people writing from or about prison. It's mind-boggling to me that Brian Stevenson has not collapsed from sheer exhaustion, because I was exhausted from reading and just the pace at which he worked on so many, many tragic cases. I marveled at his energy and at his compassion for his clients, for those that he could not save, like Michael Lindsay and Horace Dunkins and Herbert Richardson, each one described with special attention due to their respective humanity, but also those he could save. And of course, there was Walter McMillian, who will be played by Jamie Foxx in the upcoming movie that I hope to see. There is so much to digest and reflect upon in this book. But I'll limit myself, because this is supposed to be short, to say that the fact that Bryan Stevenson has had to go before the Supreme Court of the United States 5 times, probably more since the book was published in 2014, speaks volumes about the prison industrial system here in the United States. I highly recommend this book. Second book that I finished reading was a read-along with Brianna at Brianna's Library and David Murphy of the same channel name, which they hosted for the reading of the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, which is essentially a pamphlet written for, at that time, the newly formed Communist League in 1848, around that time. Now, the Communist Manifesto is actually a brief pamphlet outlining the views and the aims of communism at that time. For example, defining what is bourgeois and what is proletarian. And it actually takes just 40 pages. This little bit here between my fingers that I had separated with the clip, this is the much feared Communist Manifesto. The rest of this is introduction in the Penguin Classics edition, an introduction by Gareth Stedman Jones, which takes over 400 pages. And then the endnotes are around 15 pages more. So, yeah. This is basically an explanation of what was communism at that time. And so 40 pages. I suspect that what fascinates people still about communism is the fear that it still instills in people. To this, I had to make more space on my phone. So let's do this fast. I was telling you that I thought that the fascination with the Communist Manifesto had to do with the fear that it still produces in people, the idea of communism and socialism, as evidenced by the continuing sentiment reflected in the first few lines of the Communist Manifesto, which reads, "A specter is haunting Europe and the rest of the world," I might add. "The specter of communism. All the powers of old Europe have entered into a holy alliance to exorcise this specter." And later on it says, "Where is the party in opposition that has not been decried as communistic by its opponents in power?" Seen that happen a lot. Everybody who is in opposition suddenly becomes a communist. Yeah. So thanks for the opportunity of reading the Communist Manifesto. I will be reading the introduction, yeah, very soon. Then, because of Juan at Bookish Islander, who reviewed this way back in June of this year, I decided to pick up La Familia de Pascual Duarte, written by Spanish author Camilo José Cela, for the November Gone with the Book event, because this was published in 1942-1943. This could also, if it had been a nonfiction memoir, could easily fit into the carceral canon of writings from prison, because in this novel, the main character, Pascual Duarte, is writing from prison before his execution. And in those letters that he writes, we get a picture of his upbringing, his childhood, the cruelty of his life, entire life. Cruelty, violence, bloodshed, tragedy, everything. Now, later on, I went to Wikipedia because of a little detail that Juan had mentioned in his review, because he very astutely mentions the fact that he didn't know how much of that rural, hard, poverty-stricken life the author knew about. What was he trying to really say? A person, a young man, this was his debut novel, a young man who had been brought up in a well-to-do family and who had a happy childhood. How much did he really know about what he was writing about? So I looked him up, and it turns out, now this book was banned for 3 years because it was published during Franco's dictatorship, at the very start, practically, of Franco's dictatorship, which the author supported. But his own book was banned for 3 years, and then he himself becomes a censor? Juan, clear this up for me. There seems to be some kind of a cognitive dissonance going on here, for me anyway. Yeah. Then, finished in a read-along, buddy read with Brian at Bookish. You know Brian loves Balzac. He calls himself the Balzac guy. I love it. Reread Cousin Pons with a wonderful group of people from all over. And that's what made it so wonderful also, because I got a lot of insights from everybody's participation, which is why I love buddy reads. And yeah, I was almost going to give up on this book at the very beginning, because I don't like details. And it was a very detailed description of his clothing and how unfashionable and old and ratty looking and ridiculous it seemed to everyone, his neighbors, Parisians, his appearance. And I almost gave up on it because of that tone. But that tone is precisely what later on engaged me, because I got to see what Balzac was trying to say. It's not a very it's not a very happy kind of book. It's a photograph of what society was like in Paris at that time, according to Balzac. And all I can say is that I'm going to continue reading Balzac.